The age of about 20, I said, I can't do this anymore. I changed everything. And what I didn't know was I was applying attachment theory, and it explained everything. And as I put this science online, all of a sudden it was this massive explosion of women wanting to learn more about how am I biochemically different? And then are men able to bond at all? Are they sociopaths? Nope, men have this other biochemical that they bond with.
What are some of the telltale signs of dysfunction in a marriage that you're like, there's attachment issues?
This is where you kill porn addiction and even the desire for it. And the wife, this is where you build this abundant sex drive where he's begging for a night off. Securely attached women will ask questions again
Or you're
and again.
ghosting me. Are you interested or not?
100%. They will ask that. One of the best questions a woman can ask a man is, there's a lot of people who are emotionally starved and who are scared and who don't know what to do. All women really have to do, all these steps we've laid out, all they really have to do is go to their husband and say,
Am I the problem or are they the problem? What are the telltale signs of attachment issues? How can we optimize bonding hormones like oxytocin for more intimate relationships? And what's the biggest mistake that women make in dating? On today's episode of The Lila Rose Show, I sit down with attachment specialist Adam Lane-Smith, who has spent years working with thousands of couples to improve their relationships. As you know, on The Lila Rose Show, we are keenly interested in improving our relationships, building stronger families in a culture where there is so much chaos and brokenness. This episode will bring a lot of tools and food for thought for how we can do just that. If you enjoy this content, the quickest and easiest way to support us is to click subscribe here on YouTube and like this video. And if you're listening on podcast app, to leave us 5 stars and a review to help the show reach more people. Adam Lane-Smith, welcome to the podcast.
thank you for having me. I've been watching you for a long time, and my wife especially has been watching your content. So.
Well, she's lovely. I got to meet her just a moment ago, and I love learning more about your story and your background, and the work you're putting out into the world, I think, is so incredibly useful for couples. So very excited that you joined the show.
Thank you.
So you are known as the attachment specialist. Your work is being seen by millions of people, helping couples truly connect with each other and live these beautiful relationships. There's a lot of background there about why you even got into this. You used to be a licensed marriage and family therapist. Give me your backstory and then how this whole attachment work started. And then we're going to get into what you actually teach.
Sure. So I was born into a family that had extensive attachment issues, the whole extended family system, a lot of adoption, a lot of foster children, a lot of abandonment, things like this. So I grew up saturated in that, let's just say, from a generational standpoint, a lot of trauma. And all of the kids around me had the same thing, right? Here in California, where I grew up, families are been breaking for 100 years, more than that. So I grew up in it. And at the age of about 20, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't live insecurely in my relationships. I can't please other people. I can't constantly worry that I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings or get abandoned or get rejected. I have to be more honest. I have to be me as a human being. And at that point, I changed everything in my life. I changed the way that I talked to other people. I changed the way I put up boundaries. And what I didn't know was I was applying attachment theory at that time. Now, nobody talked about attachment theory back then. Nobody talked about how we connect to people. Everything was medications and diagnoses and problems. So I went into school and I said, whatever I did, I got to help other people do this because everyone around me is suffering the same way. So I went to school, got my master's degree in psychology, focused into marriage and family therapy, got my license there. It was a 9-year process. And as I did, I was trying to find this answer about why are people hurting the way they are. And the whole field just wanted to talk about medications. They would say, we don't know why people have diagnoses. We don't know why mental health issues are on the rise. We don't know why families are breaking apart. We just need to talk to them each week. We need to solve their individual feelings. We need to teach them to empower themselves and give them medications. And that was the answer. And I didn't like that answer. So I dug through all the schooling and all the information I could. And I found this old dusty theory no one would talk about called attachment theory. And it explained everything, everything. And when I took it in my supervisors, they said, insurance won't cover this. The state won't cover this. Nobody will cover this. You have to teach to the diagnoses. So I branched out. I started talking all over the internet about it to anyone who would listen. No one, again, on the internet was talking about this 5 years ago, hardly. And finally I got picked up by a couple podcasters who kind of changed my life. But it became this thing. It's my crusade. I have to teach everybody in the world how to do this.
I have so many questions already, and I can't wait to get into what you're teaching. But let me start going backwards, try to go chronologically here, as you just beautifully did. So you said you grew up in a home where there was abandonment, and you connected to the family anyways, I think you said, but adoption, foster care, these different attachment challenges. Were you yourself adopted or fostered, or did you have siblings who were? Is there more you can share about that?
Yeah. So all of my grandparents pretty much all had major attachment issues, abandonment issues. They were foster children. They were heavily abused. They were traumatized. That trickled down through the generations of all that people knew was trauma and suffering. Most parenting skills that people to have today, they're trauma skills, right? Shut the kid up and get through one more day. Quiet the kid down. You look in vehicles, and what do we have? We have screens that fold down so your child will be silent so you can focus on driving, because your nervous system is so overclocked you can't deal with talking to your child, and their nervous system is so used to being overstimulated that they can't even go on a 10-minute car ride without stimulation. So it's trauma cycling, and it's dealing with bad nervous systems. Most families are this way today. So I grew up typical in that kind of structure. And to me, it ate me alive. I became anxiously attached. Anxiously attached people say there's something wrong inside of me. No one else loves me. No one will ever love me. I'm unlovable. I grew up fundamentalist Christian, interestingly enough. And they teach we are sinners in the hands of an angry God, and that God begrudges you every moment, and you don't deserve love, and you never will, which goes really well with anxious attachment, by the way. And that really wounded my ability to believe in God in those first early formative years of my life. For the first 20 years of life, it was very difficult to even conceive of a God who could love me. This is one reason a lot of youth today are walking away from the church, is they can't conceive of love. They don't understand it, and they don't think they're worthy of it, or they've never seen it. So when you tell them about an all-powerful being who truly loves them, it sounds stupid.
You said when you were 20, you thought, I didn't want to live this way anymore. And then you just chose not to. What does that mean? You didn't know you were understanding your own attachment issues and healing them, but you did. How did that work?
I reached a point, it was life or death. I said, I can't continue through the suffering anymore. I can't lie to people about who I am. I can't pretend that things are great when they're not. I can't hold my tongue when people do something wrong and hold it in. I can't violate my principles for other people and just to please them. I can't give up my life goals just for people who pressure me. I have to have proper boundaries instead of pretending I don't, just so that people will like me. I had to transform everything because it was
really quick,
not
these are
livable.
people in your family, or these are just
Everybody in my life.
Okay.
It seemed like I could find people who would go over my boundaries. Even if they were good people, I still couldn't speak about it. That's the problem with attachment issues. And people listening today, they probably struggle to go out and say, this is what I feel. This is what I believe. This is who I am. No, I can't do that for you because it will harm this part of me. Is there a different way I can help you? When you have attachment issues, you struggle to do that.
So when you had that aha moment of, I just don't want to keep doing this, like basically being, it sounds like a people pleaser, someone without boundaries, insecure inside, anxiousness, it sounds like you had a lot of anxiety. How did you fix that for yourself? What did that look like?
Everything I was doing made me miserable. So I said, I will do the opposite of everything I am doing, which was not to become angry and aggressive, not to be mean and hurtful and push back on other people. A lot of people, when they come out of anxious attachment in particular, will say, I'm in my villain phase now because I had a boundary. It was simply, I will actually speak. I'll be honest with people. I'll maintain compassion, but be truthful about who I am and just live in that way. And it was, I can't even begin to explain to you how eye-opening it was when people around me started shifting, that they started responding to it in a positive, healthy, loving way, that people actually like you more. They trust you more. They want to be around you because you're simply honest. When you are honest, people respond better.
So you felt just basically telling the truth in your relationships. That really sounds like the core of what you started to do.
That's exactly it.
Transformed your relationships. And this was before you were an expert on attachment theory. You didn't get your degree yet. This was just Adam having this big transformation at age 20. It sounds like it's just a grace from God.
Absolutely a grace from God. Could not have done it without God.
All right. So now walk us through attachment theory. What is attachment theory? Connect it, if you can, back to your decision to tell the truth and how that impacted all your relationships. Help us understand this. And you said it's an older theory.
Yeah, it's from the 1950s.
The history too. Okay.
1950s, from John Bowlby. Let's make it really simple. Attachment is the way that human beings connect in relationships, basically to get their needs met, to relate, to live day to day, to get our bonding hormones, our neurotransmitters, everything that we need. So attachment's right now between you and I. It exists here, even in this relationship. But it goes back to our caregivers. Our caregivers teach us a couple of things. One, they're either going to work with us and be friendly and kind, honest, direct, have firm boundaries, but also work with us to get those needs met and create a system where we are comfortable. Our nervous system rests in their presence enough that we can speak up and say what we need to. We also learn the communication skills to articulate those needs. That's called secure attachment. And the child grows up, calm, regulated nervous system. They're thriving, they're growing, and they're very focused on opportunities because they're not living on the edge. That's about 35% of people today. 65% of people have insecure attachment. They learn that the people around me will not listen to me. They will not caretake my needs. They will shut me up. They'll tell me I'm too much. They'll tell me I don't deserve it. And about 20% of those people go anxious, where they believe it's their fault. They say, I'm unlovable. No one will ever care for me. I'm worthless, and I have to please other people to score points so that they might not abandon me and maybe will pity me enough to meet my needs. Massive people pleasers. About 25% of those will go avoidant, which says other people are the problem. When they get stressed out, they dominate me, they control me. So I'm going to put up a healthy wall. They become a lone wolf, a survivalist. Their brain, actually, the prefrontal cortex, overdevelops to squash emotional expression so they can't feel their own feelings, especially during stress, and they become isolated emotionally from others, and they manage things. Maybe they're manipulative or maybe they're ethical, but they still keep a wall between them and others. And about 20, the remaining portion of that, with disorganized style, the blend of the two, where it's deeper levels of trauma, and they're both anxious and avoidant at the same time. They flip back and forth based on what relationship they're in. If they're around more controlling people, they flip anxious to please them. If they're around more anxious people, they flip avoidant to control them, and they go back and forth in different pieces. I've since updated the field of attachment theory, and I've broken those down into subtypes. So there's 8 subtypes now because it has got worse since we did that research back in the 1950s. It was about 35% insecure then, 65% secure. We're going in the wrong direction. Now it's 65% insecure, 35% secure.
Where are we getting those numbers?
So we've done a lot of research extensively over the decades. Massive research by governments on every continent. There's a lot of research out there that shows this. We know that the boomers were about 35% secure. The Gen X millennials, probably more you and me, about 50-50. And then Zoomers today are 35, and it's actually getting worse and worse.
And when you say it's like this government data and all of this data set, is it kind of collecting the large body of diagnoses, medical diagnoses, mental health diagnoses, and then you're extrapolating that to mean, oh, this many people have anxiety, have depression, therefore they're at the root suffering from attachment disorders?
It's actually even better than that. So, for example, on my website, I have an attachment assessment, and we assess people. We've done about 30,000 people in the last year alone. People go in and they answer about 60 questions based on, this is how I feel, this is how I respond, this is what I do. And we can figure out very accurately what someone's attachment style is. So they've done that research over and over and over and over with people to actually figure out how they respond and how they feel. It is a science, but it's not a recognized one in the field of psychology yet, because it's not a diagnosis that insurance companies can bill for. Some of my clients come in and they're on 27 different psych medications and they don't know what any of them are for. Things like that. That's what the system is supporting right now. But
wow,
we do have exact research on this piece. So
there have been so many times when I've been looking for an OBGYN or a pediatrician or a family doctor when I wonder, is this doctor pro-life? So how do we find pro-life doctors? I am so thankful to my friends over at Presidio. They have launched ProLifeProviders.com. ProLifeProviders.com is a values-based platform where you can find doctors that share your values, from everything from infertility to vaccine schedules to abortion. Don't settle when it comes to your family's health. Find the best doctors. That's ProLifeProviders.com. So you started this work more, you left behind your practice as a therapist to do this more, it's a form of counseling, but I know it's not technically accredited as it was before. Why? Why did you do that?
I wanted to teach everybody on every continent. My goal is to get 1 billion people securely attached. After that, you guys can take care of yourselves. But that's why God put me on this earth, is 1 out of 7 people I got to take care of through the course of my life. Me, my team, my kids, everybody. So to do that, I couldn't do it sitting in a therapy office. And your therapy license is only good in 1 U.S. state out of 50, and you're not allowed to touch anybody internationally. So I was turning down people. I had families coming to me begging me for help, and I couldn't help them. I wasn't allowed. So I went to my licensing board and said, I want to do something called coaching. It's more Wild West. You can do anything you need to. I'm going to build a rigorous ethical system. I'm going to build my own system to do it. Can I do this? And they said, no, anything you do will be treated as therapy and you will be penalized appropriately. So to be able to help anybody, even in the neighboring state, I had to give up my license.
When you started your work publicly online teaching about attachment theory, what were some of the, I guess, first breakthroughs for you in terms of people noticing what you were doing and realizing this can really help me? And what did that look like for those people once they started to learn from you?
Oh man, it's the practical science of it, honestly. A lot of my audience, I do have a lot of men, but mostly women. And thank goodness, because women are so hungry to learn. Women are anxious, they're starving, and they know something better is out there. Men are sort of bunkered down believing that this is all there is, and they're just barely surviving, or not even that. The women are trying to learn. So most of the women come to me first. And what they usually want to learn is how to bond to a man in their life that they love. It's how do I give him more love, care for him, and build a family with him? And thank goodness for that. We need that. So what I usually teach, the biggest piece, and early on it was really big, was look, if you are intimate with a man and you are not building an emotional connection first, if you aren't bonded in marriage, if you aren't connected, he will not biochemically bond to you appropriately. And especially if he has this style of attachment, he will only release dopamine during that experience. So he will, yes, come back later when he's hungry, but that's not love or intimacy or loyalty. You, however, will release oxytocin flow through your brain and become biochemically addicted and monogamous to him. So when he leaves, you'll be devastated again and again and again. And as I put this science online, all of a sudden it was this massive explosion of women wanting to learn more about how am I biochemically different? And then are men able to bond at all? Are they sociopaths? Nope, men have this other biochemical that they bond with. It's called vasopressin. This is the key to male monogamy in particular to make it very satisfying. So when I teach those elements, that pulls a lot of women in because they want to learn more about that science. And that's cutting edge research being done in laboratories all over the US right now. Dr. Sue Carter, she's a leading expert in the world on these bonding hormones. She has been for decades. She's currently over in Europe touring. I've spoken with her a lot. She's wonderful, but her research is backing up all of these bonding pieces that we understand and why chastity until marriage is important, how men bond and how to actually get them integrated into a family successfully when men seem to be fleeing from monogamy. There are so many answers out there, and it all feeds right into, I'm not calling it attachment theory anymore. It's attachment science because it's the whole cluster of how we bond.
What you just noted just now, that people are fleeing from, people are fleeing marriage. Marriage is an institution. There's a little bit of actually a backup right now. I think that there were some record lows on people marrying, and now it's like getting a little bit better, but it's still terrible compared to 50 years ago. Absolutely terrible. Post-sexual revolution, it's abysmal. The family's broken down. Many people don't get married. I think half of children are being raised in not two-parent married households. So they're being raised by single parents. It's very rare to think about marriage for life and sex belonging in marriage. People are just like, that's so outdated. That does not make sense. Most people live together before marriage. Cohabitation's at an all-time high. And then also you have all the mental health issues and all of the other breakdowns, porn addictions, sex addictions. That's all over there happening. Is there a connection? I think so. But, that's obviously something to explore here more. Like just going back to what you were saying earlier about the boomers, 65% secure attached. Today, it's the opposite. Now it's actually for Gen Z, 65% insecure attached or some broken attachment style. Why?
How far back do you want to go?
As far back as we need to.
Okay, let's go about 125 years back to the year 1900. In the year 1900, the majority of Americans were living in rural areas, in large families, large farming communities. They lived in extended family networks, but also what we call kith and kin networks, additional networks around them. So they knew people. It wasn't perfect and idyllic. We don't romanticize this era, but it's appropriate for building secure attachment. Because if your parent dies, you don't simply go into hardcore starvation survival mode. Someone else steps in and takes care of you. If your parent is traumatized, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, everybody's there. So you have massive redundancy in your system. It's very difficult to get insecure attachment because you know you're loved in these thriving networks. Okay. This is how we're designed to be built and designed to be raised. Not perfect, but redundant so that everything is great. Okay. Now, when you fast forward through World War I, which is a meat grinder where we lost an overwhelming amount of men, where we said we have the lost generation of men who either were murdered over there in the wars and died from shrapnel bombs that killed them and their entire group of childhood friends, or men who came back seeing that and couldn't function anymore. right? And then you have the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression. You have this period of exhaustion and destruction. You have Hemingway and all of that sort of thing. And then rolling in forward into that, you have financial destruction until World War II, where we lose another generation of men. And all of these women seeing men fail them at home because the men are just checked out because they can't function, or they're seeing men just dying by the hundreds and they're losing them. So women have learned don't trust men, don't rely on them for the last 100 years. We have 4 or 5 generations of women saying don't rely on men. They let you down or they will die, right? So we've got feminism now. And that's men and women not being able to connect. So you've got the early generations. Love was survival. I will feed my children with the blood of my own body, the pelican symbol in Catholicism of the pelican ripping itself open to feed its flesh and blood to its children. Like that's those parents in that generation. You get to the boomers and they were handed piles of rusty nails as like inheritance. Like I've saved these for you. You might need these someday, right? And half of them, maybe 65% got it. 35% didn't and rebelled and said, why are you yelling at me? Why are you angry all the time? Why are you emotionally shut down? Why don't we feel like a family? America switched from rural into urban, and then families went into these big factory settings where they were ripped apart and destroyed. We have the Knights of Columbus come forward at this point to start trying to build financial safety for people who are killed and maimed in machines and can't take care of their families anymore. We lose our safety nets. We lose our extended families. We lose our kith and kin networks. We lose religion along the way. We lose everything along the way. Okay. And as this continues to grow through generations, now we've got the boomers who are tripling their divorce rates now in their 70s and 80s. They call it the gray divorce wave because they learned feelings is all that matters. My family hated me. They were quiet and miserable growing up. I will never tolerate that again. Me, right? So they tore apart families, Generation X, Generation Y, and then they got their second batch of family and said, I will make these kids stronger and better and smarter. And they built the millennials who hate them. And then going forward, they do.
It's so true though, but you're right, because the boomer generation, it's like they're rejecting the kind of, the silent, the greatest generation, like stuff it up, be tough. And they're like, we're like cry, like feel, like divorce, do what you need to do, be you. Like, I mean, they still have their emotional issues, their attachment issues. They're not like pretending like they're super healthy. A lot of them love therapy, which is actually interesting.
It is. But here's what they did especially wrong. When they got divorced, they said, sometimes love just doesn't work. And that's a message that has resonated through the millennials. Hey, sometimes love doesn't work out. You just got to move on. You got to dust off, tally yourself off and move on to the next one. And then we built all these networks based around that concept that love is meaningless and pointless. And sacrifice is stupid. And having children is a burden. And so we built that in the millennials and then into the Zoomers now. And the millennials gave up because they were being told, hey, sacrifice everything for your family, but your family will do nothing for you. And Gen Z came along and said, no one's going to help anybody. So survive. They're essentially,
I'm going to go be a creator and do my own thing.
Right.
Like
Gen Z is growing up in the rubble of a society. It's just that the machines are keeping us alive. So they have never seen a functioning family. Their concept of family is sitcoms and movies, where we have dad is an idiot and mom hates her life. That's their concept of marriage now. So Gen Z doesn't know what to do. So they're reinventing marriage, by the way, and pretending that they've invented new concepts for it and giving it different names, which is fascinating. But we're seeing this rise of starvation. They want what has been with us all along. It's just 100 years of insanity and brokenness escalating to today where we are, where we say marriage is pointless because we think marriage is about feelings, and it's not.
Okay, there's so much there.
There's a lot to do.
That was amazing.
There's a lot to do.
So this idea of the feelings first and then coming out of just brokenness and not secure attachment. Right. And then wherever that leads, that chaotic destroy your life path that can lead you on. But I think about the sexual revolution and the onset of contraception as this amazing technological invention that's going to set us free, right? And obviously feminism, yes, but I think in some ways feminism was hijacked by other things going on, like some of the good elements early on. You got the sexual revolution, you got contraception, and all of a sudden you have like, now you package the sexual revolution and contraception and abortion as feminism. That wasn't original feminism, but whatever. It's now packaged that way. So now it's like for women. And what is for women? Abortion, contraception, and like promiscuity. Like, what? How did this happen? This is so insane, but that's where we are. Can you connect for me how you see the sexual revolution's onset and all of that's chaos to attachment breakdowns and the trauma that, started to shift into American society, in part because of war, quite frankly. 7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement and help moms and babies in need. My favorite is the Ethiopia medium roast. Its notes are smooth, chocolate, and floral. It is absolutely delicious. You have all kinds of blends available on the 7weeks.com website. What I love about this coffee is it is from the top 1 or 2% of beans in the world, and it's also mold-free, pesticide-free, ultra-low acid, and organically farmed. And this is where you and I come in. Not only can we subscribe to 7 Weeks Coffee and get the most delicious coffee delivered right to our door, we know that with every single purchase we make at 7 Weeks Coffee, they are donating a full 10% to pregnancy resource centers in need. And a huge congratulations to 7 Weeks Coffee for hitting over $1 million donated to pregnancy resource centers and moms and babies in need. Go to 7weekscoffee.com today. Subscribe and save a full 15% off your order. And when you use the code LILA, you get an additional 10% off your first order. That's a full 25% off your first order at 7weekscoffee.com, and you'll also get a free gift. Order today and help fuel the pro-life movement. Can you connect for me how you see the sexual revolution's onset and all of that's chaos to attachment breakdowns and the trauma that, started to shift into American society, in part because of war, quite frankly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and technological changes.
Absolutely. Americans always had a puritanical streak, but when you look back at the 1900 era, right, 1900s, 1910s, you're not seeing that insanity that they had in the 1950s, right? But as families began breaking down, I saw this data just the other day, families began breaking down, and so there was no safety or stability at home. So people actually moved out and started getting married younger, really young in the 1940s and 1950s. And then the mother was alone in the home. And it was so bad because women aren't meant to be alone in a home and take care of everything alone on their own. They're meant to have their mom, their aunt, their grandmother.
Highly depressing.
Right?
Yeah.
You have children. Like after you have children, are you ready to run a home completely by yourself day and night? Right? What would it be like to have a team of older women around just helping you nap?
I mean, I have that, thanks be to God, because we've really intentionally built that. And I feel very privileged that I have that. But if I did not have that, it's hard.
Right.
Yes.
Everyone, when you talk about a traditional lifestyle, everyone wants to look at the 1950s, but it was not traditional in any way, shape, or form. It was based on extensive trauma from three decades of insanity, of people falling apart and then getting married at 15 and freaking out when it didn't work out well. And then exploding out of that and saying, I gave up my life to this person, and both of us from broken families who didn't make it work. Sometimes love doesn't work out. Marriage is for idiots. Let's not bother. And that's where the sexual revolution comes, is women saying, why should I sacrifice everything for someone who will never love me? And I have to be alone in a home, to the point that we have mother's helper, right, that comes along, you take it and you just zone out for the rest of the day. That's where psych meds, in some ways, many of them started. It was just to dose women up during the day because they couldn't handle being fully alone. Well,
that's the Betty Friedan, right? Feminine Mystique. Like, what is this strange thing that's hitting suburban women? They're so unhappy. Well, the problem is children. The problem is marriage. It's like, maybe it's actually you're alone by yourself all day in a home and you have this very disordered attachment style. And so you're just miserable.
Right.
Like that, maybe that's it. Maybe actually children are, and your husband are part of the answer, but you're not connecting it.
Well,
it's not connected.
When you look at how the female brain operates, even within feelings, even within those pieces, the female brain, it's fascinating. It's designed to integrate with other female brains and process how you feel in a safe, loving setting. Your emotional right brain gets agitated, but your logical left brain diminishes. You go to another woman who's calm and her left brain is high, her emotional brain is low. You begin processing. And as you do, she's looking at you, she's smiling, she's reflecting, and you feel cared for. Your emotional agitation goes down as oxytocin goes up, serotonin goes up, dopamine goes up. This releases GABA into your system, which suppresses cortisol. You feel better as you process your emotions and you know that you're loved. Your logical brain begins to fully re-engage, and now you understand how you feel. Now you understand what to do. You find your answers. And then that woman feels close to you because you trusted her. Women are meant to interlock like this and connect, but only in a securely attached fashion. Therapy, by the way, has usurped this role. Now you pay a therapist for this instead of the woman in your life. But women are designed to do this lovingly with each other. In the 1950s, that was lost. Women stopped doing that because they were utterly alone, overwhelmed in a home, taking care of everybody, slaving away 20 plus hours a day, 4 hours of sleep at night. It was never supposed to be that way. Women should never have to endure that.
So, what does the impact? I know we're going a few directions here, but there's so much to get into. But what is the impact of a mother who is distracted and who feels that like emptiness inside, that fatigue? And again, there are so many good women. I'm going to, just guess listening to this. They're like, yeah, motherhood is really hard. It's beautiful. I wouldn't trade my kids for the world, but it's really hard. And then there's some women. I was actually debating dual income, no kids, DINK podcast gal recently for Ellen Fisher's show. It's going to come out at some point soon. But she was like, yeah, I was fine growing up, but I'm not going to be a mom. No way. I'm so happy not being a mom. Never want to be a mom. I'm married, but I'm never going to be a mom. Oh, you can be a mom. That's fine. But it's so hard. It's so tough. And is that normal that it should be that way? And what are the reasons behind it from an attachment lens, and how do we heal those reasons?
Motherhood is hard, but there's different levels of hard, right? I've heard people say that motherhood is hard because when a woman gives birth to a child, she doesn't just pass one human being through her body. Her heart is now outside of her body walking around in the world, and she has to hope that her heart is always safe. And every child is her heart. And that's hard. Mm. It's hard to build your world that way. It's hard to constantly be on demand where they're touching your body, grabbing your body, you're feeding them from your body. Your life is no longer your own. It's hard in a way that we have a different hardship. Yes, motherhood is hard. That's why God gave us a perfect example of motherhood that we could follow, but also said, hey, look, if it's hard, that's okay. We know it's hard, right? Yes, motherhood is hard, but it shouldn't be this hard. Women today are afraid of motherhood, and that's not how we are supposed to be. You shouldn't have to be afraid of it. You shouldn't have to hope that your county has resources for you for childcare. You shouldn't have to hope that someone will financially provide for you through the state or a husband. You have to just like hope he doesn't die or leave you, right? We're supposed to have an entire extended network of men and women wrapped around you so that your safety and stability are always there. When a woman has high stress, right? And women today talk about being in their masculine. When she has high stress, unfortunately, what happens is she shifts from her parasympathetic resting state, that nervous system, into her sympathetic nervous system. What this does, unfortunately, is block many of her oxytocin receptors. Okay. Now, oxytocin does a couple wonderful things. It diminishes your chronic pain. A lot of women live in chronic pain. If you're listening to this, you probably do. Headaches, massive headaches, right? It also allows us to synthesize gamma aminobutyric acid, which suppresses cortisol. So her nervous system will stay calm with oxytocin if she's loved and cared and nurtured, right? Her fertility goes up with high oxytocin. It goes massively down with low oxytocin. A lot of women struggle to conceive anymore. I have a very dear friend named Jessica Preston. She works at a fertility clinic. It's a rival for IVF, and they have higher rates of success. Even when someone washes out of IVF, they come to her and they can get pregnant and have a robust, healthy baby by building healthier family system. It's not an artificial one where we're creating embryos like that. It's real, healthy children where IVF fails. We know that this works. And when you boost that oxytocin, women's fertility goes up, their happiness goes up, their serotonin goes up, their safety goes up, their autoimmune disorders start to diminish, their anxiety diminishes, they feel safe. And as their oxytocin receptors open up, they feel flooded with it. And what's fascinating is when you get flooded with oxytocin, you become compulsively affectionate to those around you. So you return warmth and affection to everyone around you, and their quality of life skyrockets because that woman is full of oxytocin. Women can survive on their own, right? But they shouldn't have to, and it's a waste, and it destroys them.
For women who are mothers or considering motherhood, and there's ambivalence there, and there is, struggle there and stress there and all of the things, and there's lots of reasons for it. What are some of the things from an attachment lens that she maybe needs to discover or heal that will help her be in the position to be also then more securely attached to maybe her own kids, her husband, help rebuild these broken networks? If we don't have a given family, then try to create this in our own neighborhoods, or, again, this is a whole project. How do we build these systems, these, family systems that are now so broken down? But if we are insecurely attached ourselves, how do we start that process? And what does that even look like?
This is a great question. I will say that I'm blessed to have my wife in my life as a great example of a good mother for our children. So I can tell you what she has done that's securely attached, and I can tell you what many women do that's not securely attached and what those outcomes are. I know that when we're able to listen to our children objectively when they have a criticism of us or a concern, and we're able to reflect to them and work with them, because none of us are perfect, that they learn that people will work with them. I know that when a wife and a mother is able to be calm and steady in the home, the children can be calm and steady too. I know that when she feels warm and cared for and protected, she's able to give that abundance of love back to the children so that they get high oxytocin, which improves their immune system. They get sick less often, right? But they also feel cared for, so their oxytocin receptors open up and flow better, right? So they grow up with that experience. A lot of avoidantly attached children who grow up, they never got an oxytocin bonding experience. Their oxytocin receptors are blocked almost for life because they don't know how to open them up and get connected again.
And not to interrupt, is that because their mother or their caretaker, if they didn't have a mother, they were in foster and they were kind of passed around, but is that because she wasn't able to just kind of like smile, relax, just like enjoy herself with this baby? She's just always stressed and rushing and distracted. Like, what does that actually look like?
So I really like this concept that mother is the first other that we know, and she really is the first model of God that we have because we're so reliant on her for survival. We can't eat, we can't do anything without her. She feeds us entirely and cares for us. We will die without her, and our brain knows that. So anything that would be existentially terrifying to a child becomes a trauma. Attachment issues are a trauma response that we don't recognize as trauma because it's not what we as adults would consider trauma. But a child whose mother is crying all the time and the child detects chronic stress in her, baby's best sense is actually a sense of smell. So they can smell the stress hormones, they can smell the terror, and they say, I'm in a world where everyone around me, my mother, this person, this thing that feeds me is utterly afraid all the time. When mom is too scared to be able to check in and she's reflecting anxiety and fear back, the baby detects that and sees that, grows up in that and says there's reason to be afraid. When mom is so anxious that she's constantly in her phone and the baby is trying to get her attention and can't, the baby says, I can't get attention from this thing that keeps me alive. It only occasionally pays attention to me. Maybe if I'm better, it will pay attention to me more. Right? If mom is emotionally turbulent and out of control, the baby, if it's a child, especially a boy, might say, I have to be stable and in control. And now I have to stabilize mom when I'm 3 or 4 or 5 and calm her down and start telling her to calm down. And I have to keep her environment safe or she will forget to feed me or forget to care for me. Even if she doesn't, the brain says it could happen and I will die. So the brain begins either pleasing mom to survive, or the brain begins taking control of mom or distancing mom from mom if she's hyper obsessive, hyper fixated, constantly governing you, managing everything you do. Don't go outside. Don't walk like that. Don't say that. You're going to die. Don't do this. Right? Freaking out and helicopter parenting you. You push back and reject. Again, anxious attachment to please her, to survive, avoidant attachment to refuse to connect with her emotions and manage her so you survive, or disorganized attachment if she's really scary and sometimes she hurts you, loves you, goes back and forth, you never know how she's going to act. Mom sets a lot of this tone. Father does too, but early on in those first few years, mom sets tone for everything that baby expects from humanity.
As you may know, porn addiction is on the rise for both women and men today. The porn industry is $1 billion industry preying off of vulnerable men and women. The good news is that there is a solution, and our show is proud to partner with CovenantEyes.com. CovenantEyes.com is not only something to block explicit material on your phone, your tablet, or your laptop, but CovenantEyes.com is also a community to give you strength to choose good things instead of to choose the destruction of porn. For over 25 years, Covenant Eyes has been helping thousands of people break free and stay free from porn addiction. Whether you're a parent protecting your kids, a husband searching for accountability, or a wife searching for accountability, or somebody who just wants to make sure that porn doesn't make it onto your screen, CovenantEyes.com has got you covered. And right now, Covenant Eyes is offering a free 30-day trial specifically for listeners of this show. So you can go to CovenantEyes.com and get a free 30-day trial using the code LILA. That's CovenantEyes.com. Use the code LILA for a free 30-day trial. Start your journey to freedom today.
Let's start with the women. What can women do to even understand, do I have an attachment issue? And then to heal whatever that attachment issue might be.
That's a great question.
So that they can mother.
No, that's a great question.
Because I think everyone wants to be a good mother. or be able to be a good mother one day.
Everyone wants to be a perfect mother, and that's the problem, is you're never going to be perfect. There is no way for any woman on this planet to be a perfect mother. Unfortunately, you don't need to be. What we need to do is build something called a self-correcting family system. You're not going to get it right. Everyone out there, you're not going to get it right. But you build a system where your children know they can come to you. Like with my wife, if my children have a concern, they come and ask her, Mom, I saw you do this the other day. Why did you do that? Mom, when we were having that discussion the other day, you said something that kind of hurt my feelings. Oh, tell me more about that. Let's talk about that. Let's figure that out. My son, the other day, he came to me and he said, Dad, the other day you were kind of grumpy. I said, was I? He said, you were, and I think you need to apologize. I said, okay. Hey, man, I actually apologize for that. Thanks for letting me know. Tell me more about it so that I can try to figure out what I was doing so I don't do it again. Right. And it's not him taking control. I don't allow that. It's him giving me a healthy boundary and saying, Dad, our relationship is good. And in that moment, it wasn't. Can we fix this? My wife and I foster that in our children. That's what we really need to do. So even mothers out there, if they're worried and they're like, my child is 4, I've been anxious, I'm always looking at Facebook or Instagram. My kid is kind of nervous. My kid's a people pleaser. They're always trying to be perfect all the time. They're scared. They're nervous. I can see it. Or they were in daycare way too often. Whatever it might be. Start building a culture where you are comfortable. The mom needs to have a nervous system calm enough that when your child comes to you with a concern, you respond properly. The issue with moms today is they react to everything. They don't respond to things from a calm nervous system. If you want to be a good mom, calm your nervous system, and there's a number of ways to do that, and then start responding. Never react. That's the change you need to make.
I think that core principle of calm, receptivity, responsiveness, and attentiveness is part of it. Not like a hypervigilance, but like being able to be aware, an awareness of oneself, of one's children, what's going on is really a core element of any attachment that you would develop with either your kids or a spouse or anybody. Because if you're not kind of present in yourself and then present to the other people, and there's calm there where the connection can happen, I mean, what is attachment then? Like, how can there even be attachment?
Right. And the problem that a lot of women are trapped in is if there's no masculine stabilizing protective force in her life, she has to be that. And then she can't be that feminine, calm, centered, nurturing self by design. Women are versatile and they can do that, but they're not meant to. It burns them out and destroys them much faster. And we see their life expectancy decrease by about 15 to 20 years when they have to chronically be in that state. We see quality of life go down. We see the rise of fibromyalgia, cancers, reproductive cancers especially. We see the rise of autoimmune disorders, chronic pain, migraines, unhappiness. About 1/4 of women are on psych meds right now here in America now for this process. So women are designed to be on the inside of a protective perimeter established by a healthy, safe, loving, intimate, and disciplined masculine protector. And that's what we're lacking today. Again, that we talked about over the last 100 years, that has been eroded and men have been separated from women and men have been broken in our own way. And we're not really understanding what to do. I have a whole idea of what masculinity is doing right now. I think it is reemerging. And it needs to, but until that force is reestablished in a good, loving way, women are going to continue to struggle. And that's why women are calling men out so hard right now.
We had Erica Commissar, by the way, on the show, Wonderful. Who you probably have seen her work. I'm curious your actually take. We're going to do a quick segue on Erica Commissar's work. The first 3 years being there, very anti-daycare, largely anti-full-time working mothers. She makes some accommodations. I know, I work. People are like, you work, Lila? I do. But with Allo Care, having another securely attached, ideally family member, children are with, et cetera.
Part of the reason I had so many issues was I was a child of daycare very intensely for the first several years of my life. And I know how devastating that is when the child reconnects to a caregiver that you pay money to, and that becomes their pseudo mother, and then that's ripped away. I know how devastating that is personally. Did your daycare
switch a lot? So you had different caregivers a lot?
No, that would have actually been easier probably. Oh. That builds avoidant attachment style. When you have a long-term daycare caregiver for a while that's then taken away, it's much, much worse. So in that process, no, daycare is devastating. Daycare is one of the worst things we've ever done to our children. It's one of the worst inventions of humankind. It is the worst thing on the planet. And yet most women are trapped in it again, like we've talked about, because women have been severed from each other. Women have been severed from the connections they should have. Women don't have even 1/10 of the resources that they should have to build their families. Women are operating with almost nothing. And that's why daycare looks like a necessary evil. It's not necessary. It's just that we've destroyed all of the systems that should replace it.
And would that system look like you have your neighbor or your sister or your grandmother and it's in your home and you have like these kind of smaller groups of kids where it's sort of more like allo parenting, where this is a lifelong family member now. They're not going away. They're part of the family. And if I'm leaving to go do farm work or work a job or whatever I'm doing, there's somebody else that's a lifelong member of the family that you're also securely attached to.
Yeah. So it looks like your great grandmother. It looks like your grandmother. It looks like your mother and you and your child and 5 generations all being alive at the same time, right? Usually for human history. It looks like not only that, but your great aunts, your great great aunts, all of that extending outward. It looks like your cousins, your sisters. It looks like this network of probably 40 to 50 additional women around you who love you and care for you and love your child because that child is related to them. It looks like a family alliance of 40 or 50 women all working together, integrated, helping each other. Not perfect. No one will be. There's small little conflicts, but everyone works together to resolve harmoniously whatever comes up. So imagine, women out there today, if you had 40 or 50 additional helpers that loved you and loved your children. That's what daycare is replacing.
Wow. Okay. There's so much more to go on that path, but I want to get to the relationship piece because that's also hugely important here. Men and women, marriages, relationships, romantic relationships, we can call them. You do a ton of work on that.
Absolutely.
Tell me about what we need to know about attachment science in relationships, how people listening can be more self-aware, have healthier relationships. There's a whole world that we're going to get into here, but
give me a place to start because that's 20 hours.
Let's start with kind of this theme of disordered attachment, anxious attachment from childhood, like you had difficulties in childhood. Maybe let's start with what might some people not be aware of in their relationships because of their attachment styles being insecure, that they're having disharmony in relationships. What does that typically look like? What are the clues for that?
Let's start with the biochemicals, because that usually shakes most people pretty badly. So when you have poor attachment, whether it's anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, or disorganized, what tends to happen is your oxytocin is very low. When your oxytocin is very low, your GABA is very low. When your GABA is low, your cortisol is high and unregulated all the time. When that's low, or when that's high, your serotonin is very low. Okay. Your melatonin is also very low. So you have insomnia quite often. A lot of people have insomnia nowadays. That's one major reason why. So you're looking at low oxytocin, low serotonin, low GABA, and then this other bonding hormone, vasopressin. When we solve problems with people, we build trust through this bonding hormone called vasopressin. It sends a signal to our brain that says, this person's my ally. I should prioritize being with them. Okay, it's not romantic. Men have more receptors for it than women do. Women have them, but men have more. Okay, you're low on all of those when you have attachment issues. All that you have left is dopamine, unregulated cravings for dopamine all the time. Now, men focus on this because we should be getting intimacy, trust, love, connection with our family, our friends, and with a partner. And instead, we reprogram through dopamine.
Is that
addiction is one big one.
And then social media, obviously,
social
for
media,
women too. It's
sugar and food addictions, video game addiction, gambling addiction, hookup culture, one-night stands. Men actually get a lot of dopamine through sex and casual sex. Men don't release oxytocin the way that women do typically during climax or during casual sex experiences, especially with a partner they're not connected to. I call this the cheeseburger effect. The woman goes in and has sex, and suddenly he's the best friend she's ever had in her life. He goes in and says, wow, that was a really tasty hamburger. I'll come here again when I'm hungry. And that's what's destroying women in hookup culture right now. It's devastating them because they think, a lot of women go out and say, if I have sex with him, he will love me. And a lot of women think that's all they offer because a lot of women have never been in their feminine state. They've never been in their parasympathetic bonding system. They're not able to integrate successfully with the male nervous system. The female and male nervous systems actually are symbiotic. They work together. When the male nervous system keeps her safe and calm and regulated, He goes out into the horror and disaster of the world, experiences stress with a different system than hers and absorbs it, comes back calm and reintegrates with her. She pulls him and guides him into his parasympathetic and rests him. And that's actually where he begins to produce more human growth hormone for wound healing and muscle growth. He produces oxytocin that actually resolves his sleep. A lot of avoidant men, they go and they connect with a loving woman finally for the first time. And then he'll say, I sleep better when I'm at your house. It must be the blankets. And they don't understand that he's resting his nervous system with her, and she's integrating the way that women and wives are designed to rest and heal us, right? Our nervous
Do they have to go to
systems-
bed at the same time for that?
It's better if they do, but it's a lifestyle.
Interesting.
I call this the oxytocin pipeline. We can get into that at some point of how you build intimacy, safety, and love together and all of that. But men need to integrate with the female nervous system. And if we can't, we die. We die very quickly. Men, a lot of times, will get cancer at age 45 and up. A lot of men today in their 20s and 30s are experiencing, I don't know if I could say these words here, but erectile dysfunction at rates we've never seen before. And it's because oxytocin, in long-term relationships especially, is the primary driver of arousal for men. And when they don't have that, they have to rely on dopamine, which is very short-term based. 5 to 7 months into a relationship, his novelty dopamine with a woman dies, and his desire for her dies. And she wonders why, just as she's oxytocin bonding with him and really investing and wants to get married now. And he now never experiences pleasure with her again. Avoidant men don't experience that. They're not vasopressin bonding because they're not solving problems together. And this is the biggest problem with attachment issues in general is you don't solve problems with people. So you don't vasopressin bond. So trust isn't built. And fascinatingly, when we take mammals and we inject vasopressin into them, if that mammal was cheating before, it ceases all cheating and becomes very protective and loving and monogamous. If we take animals who are highly monogamous and connected and block their vasopressin receptors, they begin cheating. Vasopressin is one of the biggest indicators of monogamy. We are rewarded for solving problems with our loved ones.
Well, and it's so beautiful because like human beings uniquely can be monogamous because we can choose to love and we can choose to be rational and figure things out together like you're describing. It builds trust and special bonds. And the animal kingdom, they don't have, I mean, a lot of the animal kingdom doesn't have monogamy. Some of it does, of course, but it's something special about humans.
And this is a good point because a lot of people say, especially men, I will just sacrifice my happiness and never feel pleasure or joy again after that 5 to 7 month window. I will just never feel good again and just choose to be in this dry marriage where we barely have sex and it's unhappy, right? We always say the wife's sex drive dies at 1 year. That's because at the female sex drive, if she's not feeling safe, secure, and securely bonded, her sex drive will die at 1 year, even in marriage, because it's just performative after that to make him happy. But even that starts to dry up. And then the man's novelty dopamine is gone at 5 to 7 months if he's not securely attached, right? So we look at sex.
Is this the
sexless
oxytocin
marriages.
pipeline?
This is
that you're
if we
getting
don't
into?
get it. Yeah, if we don't get it, insecure attachment. The man's sex drive dies at 5 to 7 months, and he's there just for the dopamine. He forgets she's even in the room while he's having
An
his sex
insecure
experiences.
attachment to her.
To everybody,
To
but yeah,
everyone.
especially to her.
He's an insecure attached,
Yes.
but it'll of course impact the relationship.
Yes.
Okay, I want to go down that
Let's do
track
it.
that you're doing, and I want to hear about the oxytocin pipeline. So let's do that next.
So what we are meant to do in a relationship, okay, is we are first supposed to have what's called emotional safety. Emotional safety says, I can let down my hair. Women in the old days used to let down their hair at the end of the day with their partner, right, their spouse, and her hair would come down. That meant she was vulnerable and safe in their presence. And emotional safety says, I can say anything and you won't attack me. You won't leave me. If it's weird, you'll ask me about it. We'll talk about it. If there's an issue, we'll resolve it. You're predictable. You will always answer based on your ethics and your goals. You won't operate based on feelings. Feelings are there, but you're calmed and disciplined in that area. So you're safe. So with emotional safety, we can say anything we need to and resolve any problem. So we are calm in each other's presence, right? When we have emotional safety, it opens the door for emotional intimacy. Now we can talk. Now we can share. My wife, she loves it when I share with her about my fears, my concerns, my difficulties at work, stuff that men usually cover up and don't share. Women love to hear that, right? That emotional intimacy. Where am I? What do I desire? What do I feel? What am I thinking? That builds safety and connection because we know each other and we feel trusted and loved. That begins really building this oxytocin. When we are safe, oxytocin receptors open up. When we feel that emotional intimacy, we flood with oxytocin a bit and it begins to build. Now, this leads into what we call non-sexual physical touch, a hug, a kiss on the cheek, a pat on the head, right? Brushing by. A man touches the small of his wife's back as she walks by, right? Non-sexual physical touch of just, I want to be near you. We have research that shows when we take a husband and fathers who have newborn children and we measure their affection, spontaneous affection with their child, and then afterward we give nose spray of oxytocin to them, their affection rates skyrocket and playing with that child. Their effect of touch, love, kissing, everything skyrockets
when they
with
get
oxytocin.
when they get oxytocin sprayed on them,
Up their nose.
they should sell it on the internet.
So doctors,
I mean,
what's fascinating is doctors
we should all
this.
be pumping. We should all
Right.
get a little spray.
And as they're
we be all
discovering
nicer
this-
to our babies, or like babies would get more. I mean, I wonder if
Yes.
abortion, by the way, is because of oxytocin being so low.
Well, and what you just
And women
said,
get pregnant.
what you just said is what the field's thinking is we should give people prescriptions for oxytocin. But we're not designed to need prescriptions
We're
for
supposed to
oxytocin.
just hug a baby.
We're supposed to be getting constant warmth and affection
Yes,
from our
human,
family
yeah.
and friends and partners. So when we have
Yeah,
safety,
makes so much sense.
this is what I mean. When we have safety, we build emotional intimacy. Then we build non-sexual touch. Now the woman's system feels safe and nurtured. Now we have what's called sexual touch, right? It's a little more forceful hugs. It's kisses on the mouth, right? It's a swat on the butt as you walk by. It's, hey, you're looking good today. It's that level of sexual touch. And then we move from there when that oxytocin is now upsurging. A woman needs this for arousal, right? Man does too, it turns out, especially after the first year. And that grows into foreplay. You go into the bedroom, 10 to 15 minutes of really intense pre-sex touching and connection that a husband and wife are supposed to share. Your oxytocin skyrockets. And the woman feels safe and loved and connected with this man who is safe and warm. He knows her. This turns the male sex drive from a general, like, hey, I saw something aroused me, to you personally aroused me. And this foreplay leads into sex. And now this is where a woman can actually orgasm very quickly, if I'm allowed to say that word here on this show, but women do it. So a woman can reach that, and multiple times. And as she does, more oxytocin pumps through her system. Oxytocin is what contracts the uterus during childbirth and climax. The man is growing in oxytocin during, because you're touching his face, you're rubbing him, you're talking, you're making eye contact. He's not checked out like this, forgetting you're in the room. And then that explodes afterward, and you're nestled in each other's arms, and you lay there and you talk and you laugh and you share what we call afterplay or aftercare. And that loops back around to emotional intimacy, where you start talking. And as you go through this loop over and over every day as a couple, your oxytocin is sky high for both of you, which suppresses your GABA or builds your GABA to suppress your cortisol. So you're in your sympathetic, out of your sympathetic into parasympathetic nervous system. And you're resting and you're nurtured, and he is growing and he's healthy. The man is abundant in his life. Vasopressin is high, oxytocin's high, and he's connecting to his wife. This is where he doesn't need porn, because dopamine is no longer the focus of his life. It's barely a garnish. This is where you kill porn addiction and even the desire for it. And the wife, this is where you build this abundant sex drive where he's begging for a night off. This is
because
the
it starts
pipeline.
it starts with the foundation of the oxytocin, the non-sexual touch, like the you
Safety.
need the safety for the non-sexual
Safety.
touch.
And that's what most women are missing.
How do men want safety? Like what does it look like for a man to create safety?
Great question.
And do they want safety? Do they want that?
Men will throw up if you ask them what makes you feel safe. Men will throw up. They hate that, because our nervous system is not designed for that. Right? God built us for a difficult, painful world. And God built women to endure their own pain in their own way, but he built men to build a perimeter and then go out from that perimeter and suffer and bleed and die to gather resources and bring it home to our families. So men don't want safety. Safety is what a coward does.
But they should want to create safety for the woman they
create
love
safety.
and their family.
That's the highest calling of masculinity, is to create safety for others. We want peace. When we come back, we want peace so that we can connect with that female nervous system and heal and refresh from the agony that we've endured. We want peace. We want her to see her smiling on the doorstep, right? She splashes you with a bucket of water, wash the blood off. She gives you a big hug. She brings you in, and she rests you in her nervous system. Now, men who can't do that, we had to invent martial arts and philosophy. You go sit in a cave for 20 years and desperately try to reach your parasympathetic nervous system, or you connect with a loving wife who pulls you into it as a reward and kindness for you keeping her there.
What about the men, though, that seem to not even want is the wrong word, maybe, but gravitate towards the damsel in distress. She's not smiling on the doorstep. She's in distress. She's having a hard day. She's crying on your shoulder. She needs to be saved. And that activates in him some sort of the masculine. And that is like the relationship now.
Yeah, but it's fascinating when you find someone who has a ton of problems, you can suddenly earn a reason to be in their life. If you don't think they'll ever love you, but you can earn reasons for them to not abandon you. If you can earn gratitude and you think that's what love is, if you can inspire feelings in somebody, right, and white knight for them. Anxious attachment in men is about one of the most unattractive traits that a man can have. He can be awful, he can be abusive, he can be a criminal, but as long as he's not anxiously attached and people-pleasing, women will still desire him. When a man has anxious attachment style, he's a nice guy. This is what the friend zone was invented for. It's a man who is so far below you in that level that you have to be the man and take care of his emotions. This is an abandonment of masculinity. It's not feminization, it's effeminate. Effeminate means the inappropriate presence of feminine traits where masculine traits must exist, especially those safety creating ones. Effeminacy is abandoning your role to create safety for others. Effeminacy is what women find disgusting, and women will go for avoidant men instead.
But I think, like, speaking from my experience and some friends' experience on husbands, right? Mm-hmm. The husband who you can be safe with, of course, you want that safety. But part of safety is being able to share my struggles. I'm stressed, letting your hair down. But part of letting your hair down is like, this is frustrating. This is tough. I have this problem I need to solve. I know there's a joke like women just want to complain about their problems. They don't want their husbands to solve them. I do want my husband to solve my problems. I love it when he has his problem solving hat on. Like it's great. And we're a team. We can figure things out. But that's not white knighting per se, although it is absolutely knighting. I don't know about the white knighting, but it is, he's my knight. Like he is helping me. I'm not a perpetual damsel in distress, but I have distresses that he's helping me resolve. So, and I help him, so how does that fit into your framework?
Yeah, so he's not being your knight, he's being your leader.
Yeah.
That's a different role.
Knights can be leaders, but yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
But he's being your leader. Yeah. I have a whole... So I'm very Catholic, and some people know that.
You are welcome here, Adam.
Well, I'm glad. But some people know that and some people don't. And it shocks some people because they say, how could a man of science be Catholic?
Oh gosh, right?
The
best scientists of all time were Catholic, but
I know it. I've learned that.
Many of them. Anyways.
I've learned that, but I've had to update the concept of what marriage is supposed to be for a modern audience so that people can understand that. Can I share a little bit about that?
Please do. Yes.
So
such fascinating stuff.
We have the 1950s concept when you tell a woman be submissive to your husband. We have that 1950s concept of be a slave, take your drugs, shut up, don't have feelings, just be a robot. No. The model that I teach, and most of my clients come to me, they're high functioning CEOs, very high performers, Fortune 500 executives, global corporate executives. They are Hollywood A-listers, and they come to me to repair their marriages because they're falling apart. They are acing it at the office, and their marriage has never been worse. Okay. So when they come to me, I have to speak to these men and women and their spouse and their wives at home, usually, about what marriage needs to be. And so I teach them this. The man is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. The woman is the COO, Chief Operations Officer. Okay, the woman works internally in the domestic sphere of the company. She is still an executive. She's a co-executive, but it's a small offset in the hierarchy for fast decision-making. Somebody has to make the final decision and get all the blame. Quite frankly, somebody has to. It's a difference not of value, but of roles. The man's job as the executive, provide vision, make hard decisions, right? Be responsive to the rest of the community, put out fires, constantly be on fire patrol, make sure that the company is thriving and has resources coming in, and basically solve everyone else's problems all the time. That's the CEO's job. It's the most stressful job in the company, and it's supposed to be. Now, the COO's job is to basically be the thermometer of the company. How are we doing? How are we functioning? How are our departments doing? Are we running things on time? Is everything smooth? It's her job to always be aware of what's going on and then to bring problems productively to the CEO. And now it's his job to solve them. Now, she can and should be in that role advising. He should say, okay, come into my office, right? You don't want to go knock on your CEO's door. What do you want? Screaming at you, or he's in his office, drinking, and he doesn't want to do it. And you have to do his job for him. A lot of women have that problem at home right now. Or he's hiding under his desk and afraid, and you have to put on both hats and do both jobs. No, you want the CEO that when you knock on his door, he says, hey, come in. Come in. And you say, I'm very concerned about something. Okay. If you're concerned, it must be a real issue. Tell me what's going on. And you tell him. He says, okay, I don't really understand that department very well. So could you tell me a little bit more about this and this and this? And he asks you clarifying questions. He says, okay, I think I see where the problem is. To me, I think this would fix it. Before we implement that, do you see any, you know the systems better than me. Do you see anywhere where something could fall apart? Okay. Now pause for a moment. The male brain observes in the back and immediately goes forward to act upon it. The male brain primarily has pathways that go front to back. Observe, fix, observe, fix. That's what we do. Okay. The female brain observe and then go back and forth across the hemispheres to analyze relationships, structures, ideas, tear them apart, put them back together, right? The man will solve one problem. The woman will detect 10 other problems and then build him a streamlined pathway. So go back into it. This is the problem. This is a solution I think will work. What do you think of that? Not do you think we should do it? Is there anything I'm missing? Anything we should add? And she says, well, we could add this piece because it would create this problem, but this will actually give us a better outcome. He goes, great. I'm going to call it. We're going to do that. Absolutely. Let's follow through on that. Let's have a connection again in 30 days or in a week and talk about how it's going. We'll troubleshoot from there. She says, okay. And they both have their roles. They implement, they succeed. That's how a marriage is supposed to operate. Right? She shouldn't be worrying about the sales numbers. She shouldn't be worrying about resources. She shouldn't be worrying about rival companies. Her job is the internal structure, and his job is to keep that internal structure safe and connected. He goes out, he solves problems. That's marriage in a nutshell. That's how we operate together. Our brains are for that. Our hormones are for that. Everything is built for that.
And the oxytocin pipeline that you were talking about earlier, this is a necessary setup for you to build the pipeline. You need it's the infrastructure. You need this infrastructure. So back to the roles thing, and we'll keep working backwards on the pipeline because I have more questions on the pipeline.
There's so many things to talk about.
There's so many things to talk about. Oh my gosh. So back to the roles question that you're describing, COO and CEO. There's so many different personalities, men and women. Mm-hmm. There's so many different temperaments, obviously. Giftings, skill sets, backgrounds, attachment styles that hopefully we are aware of and improving or seeking health for our attachment, healing what's maybe broken. When you're dealing with any number of couples that you're coaching and they're looking at, okay, if I'm COO woman, I'm CEO man, this is going to probably look different for every couple based on all of the unique elements of their life and persons.
For sure.
And so there could be the CEO man who maybe the woman is very visionary and she's sort of giving desires. You could call them to the CEO man. And he's not necessarily like envisioning that himself, but she is the muse and giving that to him, right? Again, it's just spitballing here. Or the woman who is COO, but the CEO man is really good at COO tasks, like household management tasks. How do you approach these nuances?
I love that. And yes, every couple will be somewhat different, but those roles are designed to be optimized for at least 90 to 95% of the population. There's a few women who excel otherwise in their marriages, but most women, even the female CEOs I work with as clients, they don't want to go home and then be masculine at home. They want a man who out-masculines
They don't want to be the CEO in their home.
They have no desire.
I'm one of them. My husband is my CEO. Correct. And I'm always trying to recruit him to be the CEO of GTV as well.
See? So right? It's exhausting.
We'll see if that happens.
It's exhausting. Yeah. I'll never forget. I had a great conversation with my wife and she said, tell me what men do. Tell me what men experience. And I described it to her. And then she just looked at me and said, it sucks to be a man. And I said, well, in some ways, yes. And I said, and it sucks to be a woman in some ways. The hardships are different. I don't even think they could be compared because we're designed to handle our hardships differently. I could never do what my wife does. I think that she might be able to do what I do, maybe 70%. And that's most women. They can do a man's job about 70%. They can't do the whole thing because you're not built for it and it'll destroy you. But you can do it as needed. So most women don't want to be CEO in the home. But absolutely. My wife and I, some people would say, the man should control all the money. My wife is so much better with finances than I am domestically. She handles our finances. I give her the whole paycheck and say, tell me what my budget is. Tell me what my, not allowance, but what do I have on my side to spend when I go on trips and things like this. She's brilliant in that area, right? I'm actually, might surprise some people, I'm pretty good at relationships. So when there's relationship things that need to be worked on in the family, actually that's my role, right? Exactly.
So you do the job description because there are titles and there's certain core, very high level responsibilities. But in terms of the job descriptions, that's up to the couple. And they need to be, and it sounds like what you're saying is you need to be intentional about problem solving your life and sharing your vision and building out what are our roles and how are we going to do this together.
And here's where attachment comes in, is if you don't have secure attachment, you are afraid to talk to your husband about your roles. You will be playing them, hoping he will do certain things, but afraid to ask him because you're afraid he'll say you're not worth that, or that he'll scream at you, or that he'll just crumble. You're afraid of stepping in and taking responsibility because you're afraid you won't be able to handle it. You'll do things behind the scenes hoping he'll get your hints, but he doesn't get it because his brain doesn't work that way. You'll be terrified to have those explicit conversations. So you're having implicit conversations that no one understands and everything falls apart. And then 20 years into this, you hate your life. You hate your husband. He hates you, and you get a divorce because the kids just finished high school.
Okay. Wow. If you're dating someone seriously, you're either the man or the woman, and you can't have this safe, comfortable conversation about roles, vision, or how we're going to do this thing together. Are you just going to get out? Well, the getting's good. You're not married yet. Thank God. Get out.
Yeah. If you can't have a conversation with somebody about this structure, I have a whole 3-date method I teach people for courtship.
No,
I think dating is a disaster.
It is a disaster.
And courtship is appropriate. Courtship is intentional and different. If you can't do that in those first few dates, either you are the problem and you need to fix your attachment issues. And that's a good test. You asked me earlier how to test if you have attachment issues. If you're afraid to have conversations about the future you're trying to build, you probably have attachment issues. Or if you try and they sidestep, they run away, they shut you down, they focus on the feelings, also they are the problem.
Could it be that they feel it's too premature to be getting that deep?
Securely attached people don't say it's too premature to be thinking about our future. Now, yeah, they'll say it's too premature to get engaged on date number 2,
right?
But it's not too early to have that conversation. Securely attached people will go in on the first date and at the end of it and say, hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. You know, I am looking for a long-term committed relationship. I want to get married. I want to have children. Not today, yeah. but I do want it. Do you want that too? And if so, what does it look like for you?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's true. They should be able to have that conversation. Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
And then going forward, whenever one of you does something that's against that, the other one doesn't just quietly say, oh man, well, he's doing that, but hopefully it's okay. I don't know. I'm afraid to ask him about it. She'll say, hey, you told me on that first date that you're wanting to build a healthy long-term marriage, but then you also tell me that you're smoking pot. What are we doing here? Like, hey, you just told me you quit your job so you could go travel the country and follow a band around. Like, what are you doing? Hey, you know, you're doing all these other things that are sabotaging the life that you say you want. What's happening here? Securely attached women will ask questions again
or you're
and again.
Ghosting me. Are you interested or not?
100%. They will ask
are you
that.
serious or not? Like, is this something we were going to do or not? And if you're not interested, just tell me.
Correct.
And if you are interested, but you're not ready to be interested, then tell me that too.
Unfortunately, my DMs and my emails and everything are flooded with women who are asking, Adam, he's doing A, B, or C. What does it mean? And how do I get him to commit?
Well, I had asked earlier about the woman. How does someone know that they're anxiously attached or they're disordered attached or they're avoidant attached versus secure attached? And you made this other comment just now about, you know, on a first date, things might be really going wrong. Is it because of you or them? You got to figure that out, which is so good because I think the kind of posture today is like it's always the other person's fault. They're the narcissist. They're the weirdo. They're the problem. They're the issue. There's this actually social media app now that women basically rag on their dates. I don't know if you've heard of this. They like bumped at the top of the app store. I forget the name of it. I don't know if you guys. Oh, T. Yeah. Of course, they're the healthy ones, I'm sure. All these ladies on T talking to strangers about these poor, helpless men that they're, you know, having them pay for their meals and then ragging on them online. I mean, the whole thing's crazy. If you want a database of women you should not go on dates with, you probably should log into T and see who's on there. That sounds scary. Anyways, how do you tell if you're the problem or they're the problem when it comes to attachment styles?
Take a good hard look at yourself and ask a couple questions. 1, do I believe I actually am worthy of love as a person, or do I feel like I have to earn it? Number 2, do I feel like I have to constantly perform in relationships so people will stay interested in me? Number 3, am I afraid to ask people direct questions about what they expect of me or want from me? Number 4, am I afraid to ask people for things in relationships, my needs, my desires? Am I afraid to ask them that? Okay. Number 5, and this is a very, very good one. Do I constantly keep up a fake front so that people will never know what I'm really thinking or feeling? If you're saying yes to any of these, and most of the women out there probably are saying yes to most of them, to be honest with you, then you have some work to do, because you can't have the conversations you need to fulfill your responsibility as a wife. So you are not prepared.
So should those women not date, you'd say, until they figure some of that out?
I don't think anyone should date, actually,
Okay.
Lila. I think that they
Court.
should be courting, but
Court.
these women need to build community. Here's the problem. Women are not meant to be utterly alone, wandering through a dark forest, hoping that the first guy they stumble across will be the perfect husband. And that's what most women are doing today in the dating world, right? You should have a community where men come to you and filter through your community, and they say, hi, I know this nice young man. You should meet him. Okay? You should be filtering through your network. You should be having your network go out and find, the men in your life, go out into the forest and stumble across a man and connect to him, and then bring him back and say, hey, we found this amazing guy. We
That's so
trust
rare
him.
today.
It's what humans are designed for, though. It's matchmaking through our networks.
Is it rare because we have our own attachment issues, and so we are not building those? We don't know how to do community like that.
Do you remember?
Like, how do you have I think also just thinking like the single people I know, the ones that are thriving the most, they have married couple friends. They like have this, they have good, they've kind of understood their childhoods and kind of learned how to relate as healthfully as they can with their parents and their siblings. They're doing all this work, so to speak, but they're doing it beautifully. They're creating space for these relationships. And then there's the people that I just think that they're just bouncing around. They don't even have an awareness of these realities. And so they're also hungry for maybe this vision, but they don't know if they'll ever achieve it. So they're kind of like, it's the Gen Z, like what you're describing. They're just kind of like adrift.
Remember what I said at the beginning? We had that conversation piece about the families shattering, and you would have 40 women around you who would be caretaking every need you have when you give birth to a child. But if you're single, those women are finding you a husband. Their husbands are finding you a husband. Your cousins, your friends, everybody around you in your network is finding you an appropriate husband. And his family knows your family. So when he comes in, he's not sending you nasty pictures and treating you like dirt and then ghosting you, because his community will beat him to death. He's coming in understanding this is serious, so he'd better treat you kindly. He's coming in talking with you about serious courtship. He's coming in treating you with kindness and respect, and he knows that you have good values because your family is vouching for you. He can trust you more. Men don't trust women today, just like women don't trust men. You have 20 or 30 years of data on how he acts and behaves and carries himself and his faith. You understand him at a level that you couldn't possibly understand a stranger you meet in the woods. Your networks connect and then bond the two of you, so you trust each other through your networks.
It all sounds amazing. There's so many places to go to. How do we build that, right? How do we get there?
We shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to, but it is what it is, right? Yes. So many of us have what we have. So let's go back to the oxytocin pipeline and address a couple that's already married in this case, right? Yes. And they're trying to rediscover in their marriage the spark and have a healthier marriage. Maybe let's get really specific here. What if you are a woman listening and you feel like I maybe have issues too. I think my husband is an avoidant husband. Mm-hmm. And define avoidant for us so that we're using the same language here. But
avoidantly attached men, your brain overdevelops in the prefrontal cortex to squash your emotional expression, to squash the pain you're going to feel, but also to squash good emotional feelings. Your brain says, don't open up and share with other people because it will be used against me. Your brain says other people's emotions are dangerous because they get over emotional, then they make bad choices and they hurt me. Your brain says, I have to survive alone all the time, and I now have to carry my wife strapped to my back while I survive in an apocalyptic world and just barely keep us together.
And is that because their mother was probably like unpredictable and untrustworthy to them,
or their father abandoned the family,
or both?
Or their family split up and there was yelling all the time, or they were left alone all the time and not given oxytocin? Either they didn't get oxytocin or their receptors closed due to high levels of stress. There's a number of ways to create avoidant men, but their brain says connection is impossible. Love is fake. Everything is emotions and chemistry. There is no hope. No one is coming to save me. I have to survive alone. And then he falls in love with a woman and says, okay, new plan. I will do all of that, but with you strapped to my back while you're screaming and crying, and I will somehow keep us together. And an avoidant man continues to be a lone soldier with his wife strapped to his back, and he resents her every time she makes his life harder, but he won't let her help him.
How much success have you had when you're talking about this in your work with men saying, yep, that's me, fix me?
I have a 99.8% success rate in resolving marriages that have this issue.
Amazing. And are women coming to you with the issue, or men first?
Both.
what is there a predominance of one versus the other?
Men come to me ready to fix it. Women come to me begging me for information on how to fix it.
Okay.
So I teach the women how to work with a man like that. But the men who come in, I just teach them immediately.
So men want a solution. They sense something's wrong and they want a solution, and women want the solution too. All right. What do you tell them? What is the solution to the avoidant husband in this marriage where there's, and actually, before we get to the solution, what are some of the telltale signs of dysfunction in a marriage that you're like, there's attachment issues, particularly maybe the avoidant issue, but there might be others too?
When you ask him how his day was at work, and he minimizes it with one word and then runs into the other room. When you try to touch his face and get connection with him and he pulls away, almost like it hurts and it's uncomfortable. When you ask him for emotional closeness and he looks at you blankly and has no idea what you mean. When you say, I need to feel safe, and he says, what does that mean? Because he's never felt safe in his life, so he can't give you a feeling he doesn't understand. When you say, I want to understand you and know you, and he says, no, you don't. When he pulls away and says something harsh when you try to be close to him because it looks like it hurts him. It actually physically harms avoidant men, their nervous system. It's abrasive to them to try to get oxytocin because their receptors are closed, and it's a warning sign when they're stressed out to get connection. Physical touch is actually painful to them during that time, especially affection, right? If he's harsher with you and irritable, and if you know that he's a good man with good principles, this is the division I've made with avoidant attachment style. There's ethical avoidant and there's manipulative avoidant. When he's contemptuous, controlling, hurtful, gaslighting, that's manipulative. That's a whole different flavor. But when he's a good man, but he's suffering and he's alone and he's isolated and he won't let you help him, and physical closeness and emotional closeness is so alien to him, he doesn't get it. And when you are emotionally starving in your marriage, that's a great sign that you're married to an avoidant man.
And I'm guessing there's varying degrees of this, right? More extreme versus this is a kind of a lighter issue that kind of flares up more than times than others. So you're dealing with the whole spectrum. Okay, so what do you do with this couple when they come to you?
It's the opposite of what marriage therapy will tell you. Marriage therapy says more communication, more oxytocin, talking about feelings over and over and over, which his brain treats as a threat. It's the woman complaining about him and bringing in a list of things he's doing wrong, which sounds like a threat. Right? Because he's trying to navigate a hell world with you strapped to his back, and now you're complaining and punching him in the head. It is, have more sex, plan more dates. All of these are the opposite of what he's going to try to do, and his nervous system will scream at him that this is demanding and controlling, and he will leave.
So you're saying when the therapist says you need to have a weekly date.
Right.
And then she's like, he's not during the date. Like he shows up to the date, like, oh, it's like, and that just almost makes it worse because it like reaffirms to her he doesn't care and he's just doing this. He's doing the motions, and it's just she's planning the date. She hates it. And then the marriage crumbles more. And it's almost like the therapy is the literally gasoline on the fire to just burn it all to the ground.
And a lot of therapists will pressure you into divorce at this point. Most women hate that their therapist takes sides against the man because the woman's there to solve it. She's not there to be validated. She wants to fix it. And the therapist makes it worse for both of them. So a lot of marriage therapy leads to divorce, unfortunately. I was a marriage therapist. I was trained in the system. I understand exactly what that looks like. That's one reason I don't do that anymore.
Well, then they feel more confident in their divorce. That's what I've seen.
Correct.
Like we parted ways because we love each other. That's the thing that breaks my heart and because there's kids often involved, especially. But it's like we parted ways. We love each other, but we parted ways.
Yeah, but love just doesn't work.
How do you love each other if you parted ways? Yeah. Like, explain this to me.
Yep.
They think love is separation. They think love is rejection, and love is doing it my way.
Right. Now, how to fix it?
Yes.
Two things. One is understanding that this is what's happening. So most women go into this and they start developing what's called a cortisol association. Your brain releases cortisol in pain and says, that man is the problem. He walks in the room and instead of saying, oh, good, he's home, it's, oh, no, not you again. You start building resentment. You think he doesn't care. You think he does this because he hates you. You think he's a jerk. You think he's a monster. You think he's blah, 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 blah. And your system says he's a threat. It's the opposite of emotional safety. Okay. If you can understand what he's feeling and experiencing, what his brain's doing, it's not give up and accept it. It's understand that this is a massive trauma response from childhood, that he doesn't understand anything of what you're trying to teach him or connect with him. He doesn't know what you're trying to do. It feels like he is constantly in pain all the time. And his method of love for you is basic, raw survival. It's to bleed and suffer for you. Understand that that's where you're starting. That's not the ending. That's the starting place. Okay. So understanding and resolving that cortisol association so that she can even give him kindness. The reason I have a 99.8% success rate, not 100%, is the couples who come to me where the wife is so saturated in anger and resentment that she's become the perpetual victim, and she's told herself the story, or someone has told her the story where it's all his fault and he's a monster. He's bad and she needs to leave.
Why is she even talking to you then?
Yeah, correct. They come to me. Often those are the very few where the man really drags her in.
Yeah.
Men come to me for other things, but that's the one. That's the unresolvable death spiral, is if the woman is a perpetual victim forever and will never soften or show any kindness to him ever again.
You've never seen a man be the perpetual victim?
They can. They can. That's the manipulative avoidant style. That's even the personality disorders.
But you've had success with those.
Those I can turn. The men, strangely, many of them we can. Not all of them, certainly, but many of them we can. Women are harder to turn once they reach the absolute inversion of femininity. They reach that absolute rage spiral where they're destructive and hateful. Very hard to turn that. Yeah. But if
and then they come out as bisexual.
Well, they do a lot of things. They do a lot of things. Yeah. But at this point, if that woman has even an ounce of kindness left in her for that man, if she can, even a smidgen of care, we can turn that into that loving connection. Because then what we do is we teach her how to speak to him differently. Here's what's fascinating. A man's oxytocin receptors, if they are dormant for a long period of time, they shift to not accept oxytocin molecules anymore. They shift to receive vasopressin molecules. He already has vasopressin receptors, but now he has additional ones. Now he is primed for vasopressin to an overwhelming degree, except that avoidant men won't let you solve problems with them. So you need to step in as that COO and begin solving problems with him, small ones. To do that, when you knock on his office door, you can't walk in speaking emotionally about love and safety and nurturing and intimacy, things he's never felt before. You walk in speaking measurable. I need to feel loved, right? This is what I call the what, why, and how often method. I need to feel loved in our relationship, okay? Here's two things as examples of things that help me to feel loved. So these two things make me feel loved. Here's why those two things make me feel loved in particular. And here's why it's important to our marriage that that happen, because these are the benefits our marriage will get and that you will get, sir. What, why, and how often. Here's how often I need that for about this amount of time. Can we do that? Exact, clear, measurable. He can go, wow. So if I invest this amount of time, I will get this benefit. Our relationship will get this benefit. And we'll have more peace in the relationship.
What is that? Like, I need 5 minutes of a foot rub. I mean,
right.
It's very specific.
For my wife, it's 20 minutes a day of direct conversation. Adam, I need 20 minutes of conversation directly per day, like holding hands, eye contact, no children screaming, tugging at me, throwing up on me. You understand this, right? 20 minutes a day of direct conversation. I need you to be focused without a screen. I need you to share a little bit about your content, about your day, emotionally, anything at all. Give me some status updates. Share with me some of your challenges and what you're doing about them, and let me share in return. Right? This helps me feel loved because I feel like you trust me and you're investing in me and I'm worthy of your time. My wife tells me, and it benefits our relationship because I can be warmer for the children. I'm calmer. I'm warmer with you. You get this love and this intimacy. Our marriage will continue to grow and prosper. I need 20 minutes a day, every day.
So when the avoidant husband, the couple come to you and you're getting this high success rate and helping their relationship rediscover intimacy, safety, closeness, all of these things, your first kind of go-to is give them specific tools to use in terms of things she asks from him. Is it always that direction? And there's specific things that he can give. Yes. And then that starts to build his sense of masculinity. Like, look, I'm providing for her, and it builds her sense of safety. Like, look, I'm getting what I need.
It helps the man show her that he cares about her, because he begins to actually understand what emotional needs are. Understand that he's avoidant because no one ever cared for his emotional needs. So he doesn't know what that means. So he doesn't know the starvation he's creating in her. He hasn't understood oxytocin and the starvation of it. He doesn't understand the rejection and how painful that is. He doesn't understand what he's been doing to her all that time. So helping him understand the pain he's inflicted on her, but also that there's a way to begin nurturing and caring for her and providing, is huge for him. And as he does that, he begins to really experience that love and warmth and peace. Avoidant men want peace more than anybody does.
This would be like, if you have that avoidant husband, people are listening, or you suspect the person you're dating is an avoidant. Sounds like the first principle is have this specific request from them that you're making about what your needs are. Give them the opportunity to respond. What would be another one?
Be measurable. Use numbers, right? My wife and I use a 1 to 10 scale. How
Are
important
you an
is this to you?
avoidant?
You know, I grew up with mostly anxious traits, and what I've discovered during the process is that I was actually disorganized. I have some avoidant traits as well for a variety of reasons. So I do have some avoidant traits.
But does this work for both anxious attachment folks and avoidant?
It does.
This
And here's
approach,
what's fascinating is you can change your attachment style. So I've become secure through the work I've done. And that's what I try to teach people is you don't stay avoidant or anxious forever. Your brain actually through neuroplasticity can change and become more secure over time, but you have to get those bonding chemicals appropriately. So yes, I teach couples how to be secure together. It's not how to cater to him forever. So use more numbers, be more exact, be more explicit. And then when she asks him, what can I do for you? He'll say, I have no idea. No one's ever done anything for me. You can do nothing for me. Women hate this, right?
So what does she do when he says that?
I tell them build a menu.
And just have him pick the least worst thing or the thing that, because if we're talking about the avoidant guy still, you said he's blocked the oxytocin receptors. Like he can't feel. So how does she get him to feel?
Let me paint this picture for you. An avoidant man has the emotional equivalent in his lifetime of eating nothing but gas station hot dogs. That's all he thinks meat is in the entire world, is eating gas station hot dogs. That's his emotional intimacy level. So when you connect in a relationship, he understands dopamine, gas station hot dogs. You as a wife want to nurture him and feed him and care for him. You want steak. You want potatoes, broccoli, everything, the whole meal. He's emaciated and nutritionally deficient, standing there eating a gas station hot dog, and you find him and decide to adopt him. Now you bring him into your steakhouse and say, I am serving you a buffet of everything I bring. Let me keep bringing you food. And at the end of it, we'll talk about what you need and we'll talk about everything. Let me serve you a giant 40-ounce tomahawk steak. And he's standing there in the doorway saying, I don't think I like steak. Do you have hot dogs? And you say, no, I have steak. It's cooked in butter. I have and he goes, well, I don't know what that is. He has no idea what you're offering, so he throws it away to go back to the gas station. Or you get him into your restaurant, and here's what a lot of women do, and you start throwing plate after plate of food in front of him that he doesn't know what it is, but it looks expensive. And he has no idea what they are, or how they taste, or how to pay for it. And he's afraid you're about to charge him $10,000 at the end of this meal, but you're not going to tell him. And a lot of anxious women won't tell him what they want in return. They are people pleasing, and they hope he'll figure out how to serve her. If you build the menu and say, hello, sir, if you want the girlfriend experience, this is what you get on that, and here are the prices. However, if you would like these options, this is the wife upgrade. Would you like the wife upgrade today? It comes with sex and love and lifelong devotion and children, all of these things. And here's the price of that subscription, by the way. It's very low and easy. Here's what I will be offering. Here's what I will need from you in return. Can we do this? Suddenly, he understands it and he knows the investment. This is what women need to be doing. But women are afraid to do this. They're afraid they offer nothing, or they think that there needs to be a magical emotional experience where he chooses her and understands her needs and reads her mind, and that makes her feel loved. And avoidant men will never, ever, ever, ever be able to do that.
So what do you do if you're a woman and you're either married to an avoidant or you might be dating one, but you love the guy you want to explore?
You go to him as if you are having a business meeting.
So you do the menu?
Yep. You go to him as if you have a big business meeting. You knock on the CEO's door and say, hello, sir. I'm the COO, and I've detected that there's a massive issue in our company. It is red, to be honest with you. It's code red. This will lead to failure eventually. We're not there yet, but I have a plan for us to turn this around. Here are some features, this emotional connection. I know you don't understand this, and that's totally fine. I'm not angry at you. I want you to know I have been in the past. I am not anymore. I'm not. I've come to understand a lot more about you and to appreciate the sacrifices you make for our family in ways that I've never understood before. And I think I understand how you love me better. That said, I think there's a lot of missed opportunities that we can turn around right now. And here's these things that I would love to provide for you. There is this 17 menu item list that I want to give to you that you've never known I can give you.
And what are some examples of that?
Peace, emotional connection.
Like I'm going to take care of myself and stop being such a disaster myself.
It is when you come home, would you like me to give you some rest so you can rest for 10 minutes before I bring you the emotional discussions of the day? Would you like to just be able to calm down in my presence and I'm not emotionally fluttering trying to figure out what to do? Would you like to be able to share concepts with me and bounce ideas off of me, and I'm helpful and productive in return? Would you like to be able to make decisions together in a non-emotional way? Would you like to be able to sleep better at night, sir? Would you like to not die at 45 or 50 from heart explosion, right? Or from cancer? Would you like your testosterone rates to go up, sir? Would you like your immune system to function better? Would you like to have lower incidences of diabetes or stroke? Would you like for your human growth hormone to increase so your muscles increase and your wound healing increases? Would you like an additional 15 years of life expectancy with higher quality of life the entire time? Would you like a co-creator of legacy who will outlive you by 10 years? And then as you die, I am the bridge between you and the next generation to hand off your legacy successfully, sir. Would you like me to be devoted to you my entire life and joyful and smiling so that when you are in my presence, your nervous system can rest? Would you like me to be this for you, sir? This is the wife model. In return, I need this much from you. These are my emotional needs that I have that you've never understood, and I thought you didn't care, but now I understand you've never felt them yourself. Can you do these measurable things for me, and I will provide you with these things I have described here today? This is building the menu for him. Ladies, this is recorded. Play that back 8 times.
That was very good.
Right? This is what you provide as a menu. And now he says, I am in chronic pain. I don't sleep at night. I'm always suffering. I'm angry. I'm scared. I hate my life. I feel
that
alone.
legacy you're describing.
I want that legacy you're describing. I don't want to die of cancer at 50. I want to live until I'm 70 and have great quality of life. I would love to finally not be in pain. Are you telling me that's possible? Because I don't believe that. I've never seen it.
But it's not possible because of some superhuman act she does. You're saying it's possible just by her being her.
It is only
That's the
possible.
power of the male-female complementary relationship that God designed.
Men cannot do this on our own. We cannot. We die without this. We wither and die. We are designed to be workhorses, but we're designed for a purpose. Like I said, our purpose is to provide safety for everything else around us, our family, our friends, everyone. But we cannot do that when we die at 45. A woman maintains us until we're 85 so that we can be that forever. That's the gift that a woman brings.
I love the beautiful picture that you're ultimately painting of what marriage is, right? That's what it is and why it's good. And then giving a very clear delineation of the role that a woman can play that doesn't suppress her, that doesn't make her have to walk on eggshells, that doesn't make her have to, it really, and getting into her feminine is part of this, of course. Like, what does that mean to get into her feminine? I want to connect all of this back to what you were talking about earlier, dating versus courtship, and why it's important in, like, what are the things that we're doing wrong there? Like, what are those differences? And he's like, this is why dating is bad. You've mentioned hookup culture a few times. I'm just going to throw out a wild guess that jumping into bed with a guy that you're not married to, who hasn't like decided to be this guy for you, and you've done the menu list and you guys have checked the boxes together and you're like, yes, we're doing this. You have that safety built. Like, that's probably a recipe for disaster, separate from any morality question, separate from any religious questions. Again, that's a very big topic I'm opening up here, but can you talk to me about dating versus courtship and why sex, like the impact of sex before all this work has been done and there's this lifelong public commitment of marriage on a relationship, and how that can impact the relationship?
If you're having sex with a man on the first date, the signal that you're sending is that you have nothing else to offer. The signal you're sending is that you expect to be in a dopamine-saturated relationship where you are going to be competing with other women and pornography and video games. So you have to give him that interesting thing straight up front. And then you've set up a dynamic where you have to keep performing forever. Most men don't want this. Most men are actually turned off by a woman doing that. Now, many men will still have sex with them because he's still looking for dopamine, insecurely attached men. But he will not usually form a long-term, really trusting, intimate relationship with you. And the men who will be turned off and will say, no, thank you. So no, sex should be the culmination of the relationship. That's what it's meant to be. It's not meant to be, let's learn of each other through sex. It's let's learn about each other, make a full commitment, and then have sex. And we call that marriage. The problem is that people today are waiting 5 years of engagement to get married, and that's not what marriage is supposed to be either. Marriage can take place within 1 year of meeting each other.
Why do you think why are people doing that?
They're afraid. They don't think marriage is worthwhile.
It's
They
the
don't think they
attachment
offer
issues.
anything. They're afraid of other people abandoning them or hurting them. It's, I am terrified to make a commitment that I don't understand and will never get my needs met, so I have to perform for other people all the time. No one wants what modern marriage has turned into. But if you do things appropriately and you're actually courting appropriately, you can get this done in less than a year and have a successful, thriving marriage for 50 years.
And you said you give like sleeping out, like, sex on the first date is this hit of dopamine, but how does it impact oxytocin? Because women experience oxytocin from sex and they get very attached to guys early on that they're maybe not the right guy to marry.
No, so here's the problem is women who have sex on the first date often have anxious attachment style or disorganized style with anxious tendencies. Anxious attachment style is addicted to oxytocin as a sense of safety. It's the child who was crying in the crib that wouldn't get picked up, right? And now her brain associates oxytocin with someone adopted me and makes me feel safe. I need to please them. So when she finally gets attention, she's flooded with oxytocin just because he's giving her attention. And she thinks that men bond the way she does. So she imagines he is feeling as bonded to her as she is feeling to him. So even if she doesn't climax and get oxytocin that way, she's flooding with oxytocin through validation. We call this intermittent reinforcement. It creates gambling addiction.
And validation meaning the cuddling and the physical closeness, or just
He's having sex with me. He thinks I'm
loves
pretty.
me.
He loves
I'm
me.
attractive. I'm alluring.
I'm
Yeah.
interesting enough for him to spend time with. He looked at me.
So those thoughts can trigger oxytocin.
The feeling of it triggers oxytocin.
The feeling
the
of
thoughts
being
are the
wanted.
after effect.
The feeling of being wanted triggers
Feeling of being
oxytocin.
wanted, of being useful, of doing something he needs, right? I did something he needs. Now I'm safe because he needs me and he'll keep me around because I'm useful. And then she feels overwhelmingly flooded with it, right? And unfortunately, this is not the basis of a healthy relationship. Relationships are not based on feelings.
So if we're throwing dating and hookup culture out, and I don't want to necessarily link them because I think, my sense is you can have healthy dating, but I think you prefer courtship. What is the difference? What is the right way to discover if you should marry someone?
This might make a lot of women at home feel comfortable right now. There was a big, massive survey conducted across women in America about what kind of sex they prefer. Committed, loving, safe, intimate sex in a committed relationship, at least, or marriage, or casual sex. 98% of women overwhelmingly said only committed sex. This is what I want. 2% of women said, well, yes, I like the casual sex. And interestingly, avoidantly attached women will usually trend in that direction. They prefer that. That's a whole other conversation for another day. Women want emotional safety, commitment, and connection because it opens oxytocin to even allow it to be a pleasurable experience. They need that. Now, you have to build that safety inside a confined relationship. It's not that you'll never experience any pleasure outside of it, but the depths of it, the connection, the safety, the fulfillment, the bonding, the intimacy, all the things that a woman is designed to detect and feel and thrive in, you won't get in casual sex. Women are dating to find a husband. Women are on dating apps to find a husband. Women want husbands. Women don't want boyfriends. Not really. So...
And men would want wives if they knew what the menu was.
Men overwhelmingly want wives, but men don't believe that wives will care for them or care or help them anymore. And most men have grown up pleasing their mother who was emotionally unstable, so he thinks that's marriage as well. And most men are terrified of being trapped in a marriage where they have to emotionally and physically perform for the woman, and they don't know how to do it, so they just please her. And then it doesn't work because women don't want that. And then he feels trapped too. As much as we're talking about how unhappy women are, men are equally unhappy. Everybody's unhappy. There's no villain in this story. Not really. There's a lot of people who are emotionally starved and who are scared and who don't know what to do. That is why I gave up my career in therapy. It's why I gave up my license. That's why I've made this my personal, it's why I've made this my personal crusade. I think it was given to me by God to have to do this because I can't not. So we have to teach people this just so they begin understanding. When we finally understand, all women really have to do, all these steps we've laid out, all they really have to do is go to their husband and say, neither one of us is happy, but let's not give up. Let's actually have some conversations about what we think, and then let's search for answers together. And if they can just do that, and if the husband is good enough that he says, you know what, that sounds good. We're not happy. Let's not blame each other. I don't know what the solutions are. Where will we find them? And then they go search for them together and learn. That's all that's really needed. Now, there's a wealth of things out there to do. I've got tons of resources. A lot of people do. But if you can just approach it from a curious angle and work together, there's vasopressin, by the way. And as you begin building vasopressin and solving little problems together, it snowballs so you trust each other. And now the oxytocin pipeline begins because now you feel safe with each other because you can have those conversations. Now you have a little oxytocin and some vasopressin, which compounds upon itself as you begin solving problems and then feeling closer and cuddling and kissing more and touching and laughing. And then the bedroom becomes a safe, playful experience that's a culmination of the safety you both feel. And as you thrive in that, there's your happy marriage.
So you have better sex when you problem solve with your spouse.
You must problem solve if you want to be monogamously connected for the rest of your life. And good marriages are based on a combination of vasopressin and oxytocin.
The idea that we can solve any really problem in a relationship if two people are willing to work at it. I think some people largely agree with that idea, but I think there's something else that you're speaking to, which is that there's a vision, even if they can't fully or picture it, there's a sense of it can be better. There's hope.
Yes.
I mean, there's hope.
Yes.
Hope is the word. And I think a lot of people give up hope. Like, he's not going to change. She's not going to change. It's going to be this way. It's going to be the way our parents' marriage was. It's always going to fail. And that goes back to the vision of God, which we talked back at the very beginning. You know, the mother is the first other to the child. She's basically the God figure. The father becomes the God figure. And if we weren't taught, and you were talking about your childhood, you were not taught, you were raised, you said, I think, fundamentalist Christian home where God, you know, sinners in the hand of an angry God, like, you are a worm, you are worth nothing. God only loves you because of God's love loves you. You yourself are trash, right? Then you don't have hope. That, I mean, what is the hope? It's a sort of like this immaterial hope almost that is not connected to me as a person. I'm not a person anymore because I'm not good. And
that's the culture we live in right now.
And that's the culture we're living in. So it has to go back to a vision of also God. Like, there is a God who loves you, who created you for love, good in his image. Yep. That is the foundation philosophical principle here that I think we're kind of talking on top of. But okay, so but dating versus courtship. So for that woman or man listening, what is courtship then?
Courtship is much more intentional dating. If we want to describe it that way.
So I can still use the word dating. It's
you
okay.
Absolutely can. Intentional dating is what we would call it then.
Love that.
Courtship and intentional dating are much the same.
Yep.
I am looking for a husband. You might be that man. I would love for us to have some incredible conversations. Mm-hmm. Let's always be honest with each other. Let's ask about green flags and red flags and yellow flags. Let's resolve issues. Let's talk about our life future and our vision that we have. Let's talk about ethics. Let's push on problems. And when we see little problems, let's solve them together right off the bat. When you're late to something, let's talk about it. When I'm not doing what I should be doing, let's talk about it. When you're curious about something or confused, let's talk about the confusion. Let's talk about the fear. If I feel insecure about something, and I feel like I have to perform, can I stop and ask you what your expectations are instead of imagining it? When I want you to do something for me, is it okay if I stop and ask you to do it for me and ask you what you might need in return? When you are needing time away from me to breathe, can you let me know that you just need time to breathe? I can do that. I can give you that. It's building that structure and where everything is overwhelmingly explicit. And this sounds exhausting and terrifying to people with attachment issues, but for securely attached people, this is refreshing because everything's on the table. There's no guessing. There's no worrying. And now you can have fun because your nervous system relaxes enough for fun.
And it's the questions of where are we going? Like, where do I feel I want to go and you want to go? And are those things aligned, right?
This should be exciting.
That's essential.
These shouldn't be miserable conversations. These should be exciting conversations.
I love that.
For both of you. A man who knows where he's going should be excited to tell you where he's going. A man who wants to be married should tell you what marriage looks like. A man who is excited to be a father and a husband should tell you why he's excited to be a father and a husband. Not miserable and distracted and angry or scared. He should be excited. And those are the men women want to find. And you will only signal to those men by doing the same yourself. If you don't do this, then those securely attached men will assume you don't want marriage, and they will leave to find a woman who communicates explicitly and directly and has a clear vision of what she wants. When you're trying to hire a COO for your corporation, as the CEO, you don't hire a woman who acts like a greeter at the front door. You hire a woman who acts like a COO.
So good. That makes so much sense. I'm thinking about what you said earlier, all the men who are really struggling right now because we've just beat down men in so many ways. And we beat down women too in a different way, but it's just the culture chaos, the broken family systems. I mean, the sexual revolution, it's just this devolution. And you look at all this social data that shows you the mental health, the suicidality, all of the addictions, like it all shows up there. What have you found is most helpful for men that women can do? Let's do in dating, because I'm sure there's marriage, but in dating, is it just being that straight shooter communicator?
You know, I look at our ancient stories. I look at the Bible as a great example of true stories, but also sagas that have been handed down, right? The story of Gilgamesh, everything, Beowulf. We look at the sagas and what is the role of good women in sagas and in ancient stories? The role of the feminine is to detect a problem and call the masculine to a quest. There's a dragon in my kingdom. I need you to go kill that dragon. Once you kill that dragon, we can live in peace and connection, and I will marry you, but you have to kill that dragon first. Can you go do that for me, sir? And he shows up and says, yes, I will. He might ask about it, what color it is, what kind of fire it breathes, but he will go kill the dragon. And now the woman isn't the reward. The life they will build together is the reward. Women's role is to call men onto quests. Some men will fail. Masculinity is not kind. It is a grindstone that men have to push against and be shaped by. Some will fail. Some are cowards. But the good men that form good fathers and good husbands, good patriarchs, we can even say, are men who rise to that quest, kill the dragons, and are always ready to kill another one. But when they come home, they're at peace. They don't constantly fight people at home either. The man has to be both. The woman's job is to find the dragons and call him to kill them. So call him on his quest.
And for the men who feel like I'm failing, I can't, I'm not, or the women that know men that are just in sort of the downward spiral.
Well, here's what's amazing. In all those sagas and stories, it's not, in the oldest ones, it's not men going on their own to kill a monster or a dragon, right? In Beowulf, he had a very dear friend that went with him. In Gilgamesh, he had Enkidu, by the way. Even King David had Jonathan, right? Men gather other men for solutions, for backup, for help. What did our ancient ancestors do? Right? Well, they were hunters with sharp sticks, and they went out with their dearest brothers, and they would go hunt something horrible and dangerous and then drag its meat back to the camp. That's what men are designed to do. Men are designed to link up with other men, and men have never been more separated from each other than we are today.
Such a good point.
It is horrifying.
So find friends. They need friends. Male friendship is essential.
One of the best questions a woman can ask a man is, do you see this problem in front of us and do you want to solve it? And who will you be talking to about solving that? Point him at other men.
And what if he has I don't know. I don't have other men I can talk to.
Find them together. But he needs to. The man who gives up and says, I'll just do it myself. No, it's not a problem. No, it's unsolvable. That's a man who's failing the test of manhood. Some will fail. But the job of a woman is not to convince a man to be a man. Women can't create men. Women can create boys, but they can't create men. Men have to choose to be men. And that's part of that test of masculinity. He has to choose to go out, find a mentor, find a brother, find a friend, connect with them. And men have to know this. And that's something else I teach to men on the side. I teach those men to do that because men can't thrive without each other. The Bible says, as steel sharpens steel, so one man sharpens another. It gives us clear examples. Christ had 12 disciples, right? And he did that so that they would have each other. Men are not men. He didn't have one disciple. He didn't have 12 isolated disciples that didn't know each other. He created 12 brothers and forced them to be brothers, even if they hated each other sometimes. And he made them lean on each other. And that's what men are supposed to do.
It's so good. And so it's, I think, too rare today, but it's beautiful to know that if that's the vision, it can be achieved if you hunt for it, if you look for it. Yeah. I have a few other minor questions. There's so much more to talk about here, Adam. So we've got to have you back on. So many areas to explore, and your work, your body of work, I know is constantly growing, and there's so much there that's serving people. A couple other minor questions about sexual partners or having sex with someone that you're not, safe with, you're not committed to for life. This is not your lifelong project. This is just somebody that you have a one night stand with, or you're in a relationship that you're boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're not like sure if you're going to stick it out with them. What is the impact of having this sort of a sexual relationship with someone on your attachment system, where you're having sex, but you don't have this lifelong commitment and safety with them?
If a woman's having sex with a man she doesn't feel safe to and isn't committed to, and he's not committed to her, she's setting herself up for emotional devastation. Mm-hmm. If she has children with him, she's setting them up for generations of broken attachment and misery and unhappiness. This is not to condemn women who are doing this, because most women are doing it because they think they have to. But women who are doing that are only setting themselves and everyone they love up for heartbreak. A woman is not supposed to do that. A woman is supposed to be the sexual gatekeeper of reproduction, but she's also designed to show men when they are being appropriate and when they are not. Most women are sending signals to men saying, you're being appropriate, I will reward you with sex, instead of saying, you are not being appropriate, but here's how I need you to be instead. Most women are afraid to give direction to men, and they're afraid to ask anything of men. Women need to ask more of men, but they need to explain what they need, and men need to have more resources to be able to meet those needs.
And for women who are listening, are like, well, I made a mistake. I'm already pregnant with the baby. I'm a single mom, and we're obviously very pro-life for people. I think sometimes justify abortion because they say, I don't have this family system that's healthy to raise this child in. So it's better that the child dies. What would you say to them?
I don't think it's our decision to decide which humans need to live and die. I think that every life is precious. I certainly don't have that right to make that decision over anybody else. I wouldn't want that decision made over me. Some people argue and say that women have the right to do that. I don't think any one human being has the decision power to kill another human being. I think that most women who have abortions don't want to have them, and the research backs that up. Most of them are afraid. They're alone. They are pressured into it by the man, who's more avoidant. But most of them are convinced they live in a world where no one will ever love them or their child, and the child will die anyway. There are a few women with personality disorders, certainly, who revel in it, and men with personality disorders who push it. But these are outside extremes. Most people are just afraid. We don't need to build a system where the government takes care of women or children either, because that's not the government's job. We need our families back. We need communities of kith and kin back. If we can't build families now, we need pseudo-families. We need people adopting each other. Adult adoption needs to come back. Family bonding needs to come back. All of this needs to come back. Marriage needs to come back. The problems that we are struggling so hard against with government and pharmaceutical solutions are artificial problems that we should be solving through families. And we're not yet, but we can be.
And it starts with each person, right? Doing their own understanding of their own attachment and securely being attached to God. I think knowing that God loves you unconditionally and he has a plan for your life, like that belief is so important. And then letting that impact your relationships, like you were describing, like you can have the boundaries, you can show up with what your needs are. And that is the first step of healing to the whole broken system that we're in.
You know what's so fascinating is there's two separate communities that are invisible to each other. Everybody is talking about the insecurely attached community of 65% of people who have these problems. No one's talking about the invisible, gated, securely attached communities of people who are thriving in good families, who have made these decisions. They're barely on the internet. They don't complain. They don't go online and make weird TikToks. They're not hardly visible to anyone. They are happy in their family and friend networks. And they date in their family and friend networks, and they don't allow you in unless you have secure attachment. And they are emotionally segregated out from the insecurely attached groups. When you become securely attached, it's fascinating. You go through this strange period where you are utterly alone because no one in the insecure communities will bond with you and you can't bond with them. But suddenly you begin seeing the invisible boring, securely attached people in your life that you thought were just passing by and
that aren't
had no
on
interest
TikTok.
that aren't on TikTok. And suddenly you start talking about desires, goals, plans, boundaries, visions, and then they become excited. And these people you thought were boring and shut down come to life because they are safe and you are safe. And they bring you slowly into their segregated, securely attached world where there's 35% of people living there. It's a whole other experience that people can't even imagine. And that's where you find the men you want to marry. That's where your children find spouses. That's where everybody is thriving in good faith, in connection, in honesty, and in love. It's not a utopia. It is people being honest and explicit and communicative and safe. It's a different world that is invisible to everybody who's watching this show right now.
I know what you're talking about because I'm privileged to be a part of one. Thanks be to God, again, by God's grace. And then when that person goes through this work and discovers, as you said, this ordered attachment style, but they become that 35.001%. And then we add one more person back in. And it's possible for everyone. I think that's the core of your message, right?
Yes.
And there's nobody too far gone. And it's one little step at a time.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone going to Christ in the Gospels and he was like, sorry, this is beyond my power to fix. You're going to have to go live over there. No, everything is fixable if a person has a heart that desires to be fixed. It begins with telling the truth, like I decided way back when I was 20. It begins with telling the truth. It begins with having enough. It begins with not anger, but honesty. It begins with curiosity about other people and about yourself. It begins not by saying, I'm going to have a good marriage, but saying, I'm going to have a securely attached marriage. And then understanding what that means with measurable targets and goals and working with your spouse instead of saying, let's be good, let's be secure, and then practicing that. It begins by building secure relationships that then transform you into a secure person. That's how we change over time. The love that we experience changes who we are. That's how it must be. We are relational beings. We are stamped for that, and we only thrive in that.
I love it. Thank you for your work, Adam. It's very beautiful, and I love your quest to make 1 billion people securely attached.
Thank you.
Let's go for all 8 billion, or whatever the number is now.
Thank you for the chance to share this with the world. People need to hear this.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, so I am Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. I have my website, adamlanesmith.com. I do have the How to Build a Secure Marriage video course available on there, as well as me and my coaches on there. We run the repair program on there to fix your attachment as a couple or an individual. I'm on YouTube and Instagram as @AttachmentAdam. As you might imagine, I have a lot of free content there, a lot of guides, a lot of explanations, and a lot of things you can share with that man in your life to say, I want to build this with you. Are you ready?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Lila Rose Show. I hope you found the conversation fascinating and helpful. I know that I did. Don't forget to subscribe, everybody, wherever you're listening to the show. That helps the show grow. Also, remember that we have a growing community over at rosereport.supercast.com, and we'd love to see you there for more behind-the-scenes access. Thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time. A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN, the largest religious broadcaster in the entire world. EWTN is reaching millions of people every single day with the beautiful truth of the gospel. You can watch new episodes of The Lila Rose Show 24 hours before they hit podcast app over at EWTN.com/on-demand.